Hi and welcome back. I'm Carly from Soundsight Studios. Today we're going to take a tour through the White Numen Tarot deck. Let's go. Let's get started with the Major Arcana. I always like to begin with the Fool. Traditionally a card about being ready for adventure and trying something new, this character is saying goodbye to her spirit animals that have helped her on this plane, and she's ready to begin an adventure into the next. Our Magician is really active in this deck. I love that energy. I like how the character looks both old and young at the same time, and with some armor. They're ready to be in battle. They're ready to go fight for what they're creating. It's a really interesting position. Our High Priestess is the card of the Divine Feminine, especially the darker side of the Divine Feminine. And we do have the curtain in the background, harkening back to the Rider-Waite-Smith, along with a gesture of the crown of Hathor above her head, but just in a slightly different shape. And here she's actually in the water, absolutely gorgeous. The water representing the subconscious. The Empress is our card of being a nurturer, a traditional representation of being the mother. They kept the crown of stars. This was seen in a vision that Mina Mathers had before she drew the Empress back in the late 1800s. And so what a great way to honor that lineage. And she has a certain fierceness to her that I adore. She isn't the soft feminine, she is also the fierce feminine. The Emperor typically represents authority and structure. And so we do see both hands clenched over the sword, and we see that look of concentration on his face. But with all the cool tones in the card, he looks a lot kinder and more serene than other representations of the Emperor, which can sometimes feel aggressive. The Hierophant is about being a teacher or a mentor to others. A lot of the symbolism in this card traditionally relates to Catholicism, but one thing I love that they maintained here are these columns which represent knowledge and a sense of institutional knowledge, where you trust somebody because they've come from a line or a lineage or a tradition. So they have been a transmitter of wisdom that has been transmitted to them. The Lovers. I like that we have two women in this card. The snakes are an interesting component. I think in my mind it brings up the idea of temptation because of the Garden of Eden imagery from so many different decks over the years. But here I like this sort of languid representation of connection. There's an ease and a peace in it. And it's a lot calmer and cooler of a card than I'm used to. But typically our Lovers represents passion and inspiration. I really like the feminine energy here because it feels more like flow versus fire. Our Chariot represents ambition and drive, taking action. Here the character is in the water, and I'm thinking this is a real live creature that he's riding across the water, so that might be the charioteer being clear on where he wants his willpower to take him. He's definitely in motion, and he's going somewhere, so it's holding true to that tradition. This is one of my favorite strength cards. This card represents strong self-reliance, being able to take care of yourself. And here the woman is kissing and appreciating this tiger who looks really fluffy and really, really plush. So it's a beautiful combination of color, it's a great composition, and it holds true to all the imagery of the flowers being on her, which represents her tools that she needs being within herself. And this lion is a representation of her inner animus and the fight for survival, the strength that is required to survive. Really love this one. Our Hermit is a wise character who's willing to go off on their own path. Here we have a moose. I think having the white eyes on the main character it's hard for me to understand the expression on their face, but the symbolism is excellent here because we have this lantern that represents his ability to light his own way, and we have that star representing a sense that he's being led somewhere and he's trusting that. So really interesting imagery. Our Wheel of Fortune is about going with the flow and surrendering to the elements you can't control and not needing to see the whole future. We have a lot of the old symbolism on the wheel itself, and this character has a beautiful dagger, which is ceremonial in nature, along with this beautiful pendulum. And so she definitely seems like some sort of a sorceress. She knows what she is doing, and I think she also trusts the flow of time. Justice represents doing what's right, even if it's not always fun. Sometimes it's a reminder to rely on contracts. Here we have this huge sword that often represents the power of the mind and intellect to cut through confusion and find clarity. And we have the scales balanced in her other hand. So a strong sense of intellect prevailing here in order to do what makes sense and not what, the emotions are leading one to do. The Hanged Man represents patience, allowing things to take the time they need to take. The character looks old, definitely appears to be kind of a monk-like character, at least an older person who's more comfortable with waiting versus the young, youthful character like the Fool who's anxious to get on the road. The Death card, representing transformation and change. The character is on her own here. We don't see her impacting others, but the symbolism of the horse, giving her horse power, is consistent with the lineage from the Rider-Waite-Smith, and she's wearing all black as well, as most reapers do. She's definitely placed in a new type of a setting, and it's interesting because the desert looks so barren, looks so dead and desolate, but we know there's so much life in these spaces if you just give it time to rise. Temperance is a card about peace, balance, healing, angelic qualities. We see a nimbus around the character's head, and so she is definitely trying to access her higher self. These look like wings back here. I think that's some of our angelic qualities. Her face looks really sad, so I'm not sure what that means, but I really love the sleeves with the hint, the gesture, the symbolism of some feathers, and then her third eye opening as well. The Devil represents indulgence, doing what you want and doing what feels good. This character seems pretty dazed and out of it, but we do have consistency with our 5-pointed star, the pentagram inverted, representing the importance of the body over the mind, where sometimes we really do need to listen to what the body wants or recognize where the body is weak and what it is susceptible to. The Tower represents destruction and change. Having the arrows go right through the person's chest is a little bit graphic, so it definitely looks like it looks more scary. It looks quite scary. Some Tower cards are more intense than others. This one I would say is up there. The Star represents being one's best and brightest self, being authentic, and being able to refresh themselves. Here we see the same cranes that we typically see in star cards, as well as the 7 stars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here there's only 6. But then she has this water that she has her feet in. It looks like a very peaceful scene, and I think she's tuning into the nature around her. We do have our traditional vessels here pouring water, so it sticks to a lot of the traditional imagery. The Moon card looks so playful here. It's these 2 foxes jumping around. I'm not exactly sure what the story is to this card, and if I didn't know tarot very well, I would not be sure how to interpret the moon. And so I like that they do something different here. It might really help someone grasp the meaning of this card in a new way if traditional imagery hasn't helped them. The sun represents being bold and bright and loud. The individual is moving cross country, has this bright orb coming out of their hands and also above their head. I do get that sense of expansion and adventure. Judgment represents having an epiphany. There's not a lot of movement in this card. There isn't a sense, I think, of an aha moment. But because there is this emphasis on the third eye, perhaps that's referencing an understanding that comes from within, and that truly is an epiphany. The world represents having a sense of wholeness and completion. Because the character has so many flowers on her and she has this beautiful cloak or veil of stars, there is that sense of universal connection. And then the flowers are that full blossom, almost like a harvest that she can have now that she's done all this work. I like this representation of the world a lot. Okay, let's look at our first suit, the suit of wands. The Ace of Wands kind of looks like a turkey leg coming out of the fire, but typically it represents having a strong spark of innovation, creative inspiration, something instinctual that lights you up. And here all these people are reaching for it. So definitely a prized spark. And I think it does hold true to some of the imagery. The wand looks a lot more like a club than some of our traditional wands. But I immediately understood what card this was. And I do love how this deck has our English words on the bottom so that you don't have to rely on the numerals alone. If you're not strong with Roman numerals, this deck is good for you. The Two of Wands is about looking at all the options in front of you, being willing to explore new things and knowing that sometimes it takes patience and planning to get there. This character has that sense of a world in his hands, and it looks like he's considering what is ahead for him. The Three of Wands represents the character moving from a space of planning to implementation, but with the need of adding the resource of networking, building relationships and connections. Our Four of Wands is a card about celebrating firm foundations. Here, the characters definitely seem worried. They seem like they're almost paying tribute in order to pray that something doesn't happen. I see this just a deep sense of worry on their faces. So a slightly different interpretation than normal, but we still have our Four Wands here, and we have the blossoming of these leaves, which do represent like there's been life there. Our Five of Wands, traditionally it represents there being a tangle or a struggle or some drama. Here it really seems like people are working together well, and there's more order in what it is that they're doing than a sense of confusion. The Six of Wands is about victory and knowing what victory means to you. Traditionally, we get that message by having people cheering on this lead character. Here, the character is alone, but he has those little marks above his head like he's just thinking of something. And so perhaps he is truly investigating what feels right to him, and he doesn't even need other people to be misleading him. He's going within to find his answers. The Seven of Wands is about having some barriers up, knowing how to keep somebody out of your space if that becomes necessary. Here the people are fighting and they're in very close proximity. And so to me, I'd interpret this more as almost cleaning house, getting people out that you don't want to be there. But there's a sense of a fight here. The Eight of Wands in this deck is a very interesting mess. Traditionally, it is straight lines of wands moving in the air. Here we see a bunch of squiggles of things moving around and writhing and maybe getting sorted out. So completely different imagery than normal, but I love the pattern it provides, and I love the movement in this card. The Nine of Wands is a time to reassess one's use of energy to see if it's something, if they like what they're doing, and if this is something they want to continue. So this is a character holding a lantern. She looks kind of unimpressed. She looks kind of worn out. This is her time to re-strategize what she's going to do next. Where's our 10? Here she is. And the 10 of Wands is a character who is doing a lot of things. Normally it's somebody that's fired up by the projects they're passionate about, but towing that line of burnout. Here, the character is being overwhelmed by snakes that are blocking her vision and even covering up her wrist and hand and maybe tying her down. So I would interpret this more of a warning to not get too entrenched in the things that you're working on, to the point that you lose sight of where you're trying to go, or you lose your ability to do what you actually love and care about. Coming into the court cards, our Page of Wands is a character that's more interested in seeing what's out there without having expectation for what they need to find. So there's an open-mindedness where they're willing to see or try new things, but it doesn't matter if they get anywhere or if they achieve anything. They just want to go see what could be there for them. Our Knight of Wands is a character who's willing to show off, willing to be a little bit flamboyant. I mean, that's a traditional understanding of the card. Here the character is completely covered up, but I love that the camel seems to be sunning himself. So I would just say this is this sense of exploration gone a bit farther. And you can see here the character has been gathering things or is able to go the distance because they have maybe what they need to take care of them along the way. Our Queen of Wands is a character that's very exuberant, very creative, very entertaining, very attractive to others. We don't often see her so clothed, and I think there's a huge sense of power in this because her power doesn't come from her body or her beauty. It comes from her spirit, who she is inside. And I can kind of see that expanding from behind her with that huge star that's appearing. And the King of Wands, again, all about harnessing that spirit, that ambition, that inner fire. This character is able to speak to others and guide them and teach them. He has the fire coming out of his hands. She does too, but it's blue, kind of a different style. I always say that our king and queens are aspects of leadership that balance each other out. So queens lead by example and kings lead by delegation. So here she has the blue flame, he has the yellow flame. It creates a really beautiful balance between the two of them in that position. Okay, let's jump into our next suit, the suit of cups. Our Ace of Cups has all those hands again, a sense of really reaching out and wanting this thing. The cup represents emotional fulfillment, a balance of emotions, even an overflowing of emotional energy to the point that there's an abundance that can be shared with others. The Two of Cups is about connecting through your heart to people that you care about. Beautiful representation with the intertwining of these arms. This looks like a beautiful modern dance tableau. Really, really gorgeous how these cups are connected, just as the characters are connected. Our Three of Cups is about building relationships and community in moments of celebration, appreciation, and abundance. I love this dance the three characters are doing and the way that it levitates the cups, the same way emotions can just bring up our mood and can bring up our energy. The Four of Cups represents a character who has what they need and is considering if they want to take another opportunity. Here we have the Bodhi tree represented, which is a reminder that the best way to find out if something is right for you is to meditate, tune into yourself, and really trust your instinct or your gut reactions. Our Five of Cups is a character who's experiencing grief or loss. But ultimately, the card reminds us to process all of our emotions, the good and the bad, even if we feel them both simultaneously in the same moment. The Six of Cups is about having a connection to your inner child, whether that means reparenting them or just starting to reach out and welcome them into your life. It can also be an encouragement to behave in the same innocent and sweet way that kids can behave, where they can give without needing to receive immediately, or vice versa. They can receive without wondering what they need to give in return. The Seven of Cups is often about identifying the difference between an opportunity and an illusion. Here we have one cup instead of seven of them, and then there's all these fish swimming around. And I do like how underwater things can seem so distorted, or when you're looking at something on the bottom of a lake or a river, the water can create an element of distortion. And so this is a really cool view to remember that sometimes it's hard to know exactly what you're seeing when you're too far away or when you have emotions in the way. Our Eight of Cups is about walking away from something that used to work well for you but doesn't work anymore. I'm not getting that at all from any of the imagery in this card, but I still like how peaceful this looks. And I like the movement that the fish bring, especially in the way that they're jumping up and out of the water. So there is that sense of, I guess I like that sense of movement. It's just not clear if something is moving away or moving towards something. But I also get a sense of renewal, like maybe she's washing off who she is or washing off her past or an old identity. So I can see where this is going, and I like the card overall. The Nine of Cups is often about taking a moment to feel content with what you have and appreciate how far you've come, but to also not let complacency get in the way of growth. The Ten of Cups is a celebration in pride of admitting what you truly want, what your vision is, and this is about claiming that vision without being ashamed of it. Coming into the Court cards, our Page of Cups is a character that tends to be artistic, kind of dreamy, imaginative. I like that the character is looking up and out with this sort of faraway look in her eyes. The Knight of Cups is our knight in shining armor, somebody who's ready to go wherever their heart is leading them, even if it's kind of scary, and even if other people don't understand why they're moving in that direction. But this is our hopeless romantic and somebody who trusts what their heart is telling them. The Queen of Cups is our most empathic character of the deck. Here we have the third eye, and her hand is over her heart, I think representing some of these deeper tools that she accesses within herself. Our King of Cups is the character who truly has mastered emotions, and so they can teach other people how to use them. So if the Queen uses her emotional intelligence for herself, that's great. She can be in a stable space, be a productive artist, be an empathetic therapist, but the King of Cups is somebody who teaches others how to manage emotions. So that could be somebody who writes books instructing how other people can handle their emotions, or like an incredible parent or a teacher that helps kids understand how to regulate themselves. Moving into the next suit, our Ace of Swords is about having clarity amongst confusion. Typically, we have two different herbs that are at the tip of the sword. Here it looks like it's just one, and it looks like laurel, some sense of victory here. Often there's a sense of appreciation in having this clarity, and that leads to success and achievement because you know what you're doing, and so you're setting your sights on it, you're clearing your way, and you're accomplishing that priority you set for yourself. The Two of Swords is a character who's often blocking herself from others so she can more tune into what she's thinking about and listening to, except sometimes that block can not just be for self-preservation, but it can actually prevent us from asking for the help or influence that we need from others around us. Here, the swords don't cover her, and so maybe it's not so much about being blocked, but that is the traditional meaning of the card. Our Three of Swords typically features a heart with 3 swords in it. Here, it somehow seems more graphic that the character is hugging someone else and the swords have gone through both of them maybe? But we have the rain in the back. We have a sense of sadness here. This can definitely represent heartache, loss, but because there's the 2 people together, it feels like they're suffering together. Maybe a reminder that you're not alone. Reach out when you need some help, and somebody will be there to understand and work with you as you get through this passing moment of time. And that's represented by the weather. The weather will change, the emotions will change. This is only a moment. The Four of Swords is a character who's resting. They're taking a nap. With these swords coming down, it looks like they're about to hurt her, so I don't get a strong sense of rest here, but at least she is reclined. So this is maybe a different interpretation than traditional. The Five of Swords is often about having a fight or a Pyrrhic victory of some sort. The Six of Swords represents moving on, transitioning to a new place. It's not clear to me if the boat is moving that direction or this direction, or if it's just in place. The Seven of Swords is a card about having walls up again and a lack of transparency. But in this case, it can be more about having privacy or keeping secrets. Here, the character looks like he's about to get his neck slit, so there's almost a threatening element to this, and I wonder if it's a warning about secrecy. So a little bit intimidating here, not gonna lie. The Eight of Swords is a person who's feeling stuck in their own head and limited with how they are seeing and experiencing the world. The Nine of Swords is the card of sleepless nights. Here she seems like she's laying down and relaxed, but traditionally this character is experiencing stress because of all the thoughts on her mind. Our Ten of Swords is overwhelm. This is rock bottom when a character has just done way too much and cannot handle more. In the Court cards, our Page of Swords is about having an agile and flexible mind. The Knight of Swords represents typically moving swiftly, making fast decisions, and being spontaneous, though that can also borderline be reckless. The Queen of Swords is often about leading with the head rather than the heart. Our King of Swords represents leading with the head, but being very, very clear in how they delegate to others, knowing they can't do all the work themselves. The character certainly seems comfortable on that throne. Moving into the Ace of Pentacles. This is about having a promising start in the material world. All these hands are reaching for that seed, that beginning, that start. The Two of Pentacles is about multitasking, having more than one thing going on at one time, but knowing that creates a sense of balance. The Three of Pentacles is about recognition and reward. This character looks like she does feel a sense of confidence, peace. We have these stars around her head, like she's being showered with some of the graces as a result of her good work in the past. The Four of Pentacles represents a feeling of not having enough or of being insecure. The Five of Pentacles is often the feeling of being left out or locked out. The Six of Pentacles is a card about exchange, having a give and a take. I don't get that message from this card, and so this is going in a completely different direction, and I am excited when we see cards shift and evolve. The Seven of Pentacles is a card about, well, let's just look at this card where we have these really strong earth elements. This doesn't align with what I'm used to with our beautiful Seven of Pentacles, but I really love how we have this sense of fruit. So typically this is about a farmer that has seen seasons come and go, and they are assessing if what they put in was worth the effort. Here it seems like they really have gotten a bounty from their harvest, and so that decision is made for them. The Eight of Pentacles is often the apprentice improving their craft and their trade through experience. The Nine of Pentacles is a person who is independent and strong. The Ten of Pentacles. Here it's missing the Kabbalistic tree of life, which typically represents that map of the cosmos, a sense of everything being interconnected, that sense of a family tree. But it represents understanding the importance of lineage, of intergenerational guidance, and knowing that you belong in a bigger picture. The Page of Pentacles is somebody who is learning as they go, and anything that they get out of an experience is valuable. They find a way to make it valuable. The Knight of Pentacles is our very stable and dependable character who is just focusing on habit and consistency. And the Queen of Pentacles is somebody who has everything that she needs. So there's a sense of flourishing and abundance. And she's very much like a hands-on, tangible desire to take care of others. The King of Pentacles is able to grow an economy, a family system that is self-sustaining by helping systems get into place that just help the whole picture grow and improve. And then we move on to these two extra cards that are a specialty of this deck alone. The Black Numen is added to represent something that is a losing battle, like holding on to something that is not going to be worth it. And the creator also added in the White Numen, which is about creation through action, the ability for things to come to fruition through effort and energy being added. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed our tour of the White Numen Tarot deck. Please like and subscribe for more cool videos like this, and follow me on socials to stay in touch. I'll see you next time. Happy reading.